Alright guys, so now we're going to be making this render right here. So something similar to this. So basically this is pretty similar to the other one which we made, this one right here. The only difference is that instead of those that valley sort of look, we have a flat ground in this, and apart from that we have a car in this, and there's a man on top of it. Alright, so we did import the man previously, so we're going to be using that, and now we're going to have to import the car first. So let's just deal with that. So right now if I just go ahead and create a new level, file, new level. You can just create a new Unreal Engine project, or you can just use that same exact one. I would recommend you to use that same one because obviously you won't have to import this black alder a folder again, and obviously the plants which we previously imported will also be usable. So I'm going to go back to lit mode, save it, and I'm just going to call it car underscore dark ss. Right, perfect. All right, so let me just go down, go up to window and environment light mixer. Let's just create a skylight, atmospheric light, atmosphere, volumetric cloud, and finally hide fog. Right, so that's going to be our lighting. Now we can go ahead and firstly create a landscape. Go to landscape mode, and I'm just going to create it. Right, so what I'm going to do is that firstly, let me just create a camera first so that we have an idea of the perspective of the camera, so that we can basically adjust and make changes later on based on that. So I'm just going to go to cinematic, cine camera actor, right click this and pilot. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be placing it something like that, maybe. Something like that should be good. Oops, my bad. The speed is way too high. I'm going to set it to 2. And the, what do you call it? Let me just set these, the width and the height to, actually, you know what? Let me just go with the default. I'm just going to go with the widescreen look. That's 16 by 9, I think. That's what it is. And so the manual, the focus distance, I'm just going to set it to disable. Focal length, I'm going to set it to something like 30. So we are going for a pretty high focal length. We're not going as wide as we did previously. So I'm just going to go back to landscape mode, and now we can just simply sculpt it according to our scene. So I'm just going to be doing something like that. Now it is mostly flat, so I'm just going to be doing it something like that. Actually, you know what? Let me just undo it because you want it to have that slight bit of a hill sort of a look. I'm just going to reduce it, reduce the strength, and do something like that, so that we have those just give me a second. If I go back to landscape mode, you're going to see that we have that slight smooth bending at the end. So that's something which we are looking for. I'm just going to go up. Something like that should be a good starting point. I'm just going to go to viewport 2, and right now the thing is, if I go here, you're going to see that this floor is basically, this ground is basically flat, but in here we have this slope. So I'm just going to have to sort of basically sculpt that area as well so that it becomes similar to the other one, just a tad bit. Something like that should be good. Obviously we can make tweaks and changes later on, but for now I think this should be a good starting point. All right, so with that being done, let me just go ahead and add the car first. Right, so what I'm going to do for the car is basically you have a few options. You can either search for car 3D model on the internet, and then you can just find a lot of these models. These 4 websites, TurboSquid, Sketchfab, CG Trader, and Free3D. These are safe websites. I've used them in the past and they're pretty good. So you can just download any of these cars. Of course, some of them are paid, but most of them are free, which is pretty good. Give me a sec. All right, this one is pretty good. Most of these are free. Anyways, so yeah, you can also download them from Sketchfab as well. Sketchfab has a lot of really good models, especially this one. But for this scene, what I'm going for is I'm going for something which is more, what do you call it? Which is more sort of like classic, vintage sort of something. So this Porsche might be good. I don't know if it's called Porsche or Porsche. I've had a lot of debates with people on whether if it's Porsche or Porsche, but yeah, it's Porsche. Anyways, so yeah, you can just choose any of these cars. You can go for something stylized if you want, but I'm just going for that realistic look. Alternatively, if you have Blender and if you have Blender Kit, which is an add-on, that if you have that installed, you can just simply go to Blender, and then you can use that to import any car which you want. And there are a few benefits to using Blender Kit because obviously, it's easier for you to apply the materials in Unreal Engine. So if I just go to Blender Kit, you're going to see that. If I search for car, you're going to see that if I just go ahead and set the filters to free first, you're going to see we have a lot of these really good cars. And this one is pretty good. It's a McLaren. I think we had a Porsche as well. Yeah, this one, Porsche 911. And yeah, you have a lot of these, a lot of good collections. And so this is a pretty good model, isn't it? Yeah, it's a pretty decent looking model. However, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be using, what do you call it? This Porsche right here, because I think it's going to be easier to texture inside of Unreal Engine 5. So yeah, I'm just going to use that one. Now the one which I used in this model was something from the transportation add-on inside of Blender. So if I just go here, now obviously this add-on is paid, but I would recommend you to get this add-on if you make a lot of car renders and if you need a lot of cars, because they have some really good cars. However, obviously it's paid and not a lot of people are willing to pay. So if I just go ahead and search for inside this classic category, you're gonna see that this is the one which I used. Buick Riviera, whatever that's called. Anyways, so yeah, you have a lot of options, but this time I'm going to be using this Porsche. And yeah, so you can use any car which you want. It doesn't really matter that much. Okay. Right, so with that being done, I'm just going to be opening Blender. Right, so now we have this car ready, and so this is rigged already, and we're not really going to be using the rig. So I think we can just go ahead and ignore that. Unreal Engine 5 will automatically remove it, I think. All right, so now you can simply go ahead and export this as an FBX file. Export and FBX. Just set this to wherever you want. By the way, if you are downloading a model from the internet, be sure to download it in either OBJ format or FBX format, because those are the ones which are widely used in Unreal Engine. So yeah, and now it is exporting the car, and I think it is done. So now once your car has been exported, or you have downloaded that car model from the internet, you can just go to Unreal Engine. Let me just create a new folder right here, and I'm just going to call it Porsche 911, and now I can just simply drag that model inside. So I'm just going to go to my folder where I downloaded that model. So I'm just going to be dragging this model inside of Unreal Engine and just drop it right here in the content browser. So once it is done, you're going to see that it's going to come up with this. Now, if your car is rigged, then you don't want to turn this on, skeletal mesh on. It might be checked by default, but since we're not animating, we don't really need the rig. So I'm not going to be checking that. And yeah, let's just let it import. And apart from that, we're going to be adding some grass. And here you're going to see that with the grass, we also have some of these flowers. So we're going to add those as well. And these trees are from, I think, that Megascans library. So you can just use those. And let me just go ahead and close Blender because I think we're good. And so just wait for it to import. All right, so now it has given us some errors, but I'm just going to go ahead and ignore this. And so now you're going to see that we have a lot of these objects inside our scene. So what I'm going to do to import the car is I'm just going to select the first object, and I'm going to go to the end, and I'm going to select the last mesh. Be sure to not select the materials, only select the objects, the meshes. And I'm just going to press shift, and I'm going to select the last one, which means that we're going to be selecting all of the meshes which are in our car. And now you can just simply select any of those and just drag it in to our scene, and now you're going to see that the car has been imported. Right, so just give it a second to import. And now what I'm going to do is that before we actually go ahead and start modifying the car, I'm just going to go ahead and click this button right here. We're just going to create a new folder with this car. So I'm just going to call it Porsche 911, and I'm just going to collapse this just to keep our scene organized. And now I'm also going to go ahead and right click the camera, and inside the transform, I'm just going to set it to lock actor movement so that we don't accidentally move the camera. Now I'm just going to get out of my camera, and now we can just simply move, and we can start with the texturing of the car.